Greetings, students. Today, we'll be discussing the great advances Bangladesh has made since our independence. You know that when we received our independence, Bangladesh had a shattered economy, a completely destroyed infrastructure base, agriculture was destroyed, 3 million people had died, and 10 million people were refugees in India. So we started pretty much from the bottom, but since then, we should be proud of all the advances we made. So we'll be discussing that in today's lecture. So when we became independent, as I said, Bangladesh had gone through the genocide and the War of Independence. In fact, it was so devastated that Henry Kissinger, Secretary of State of the United States at that time, described Bangladesh as a basket case. And most people didn't think we would survive as a nation. Our GDP, as the gross domestic product, the first couple of years, was in the negative. So it was actually, our economy was shrinking rather than expanding. The poverty rate was 70%, and the economy was dependent on agriculture, rain-fed agriculture, no irrigation. And over 60% of the people did not have work. The population growth rate was high, life expectancy was low, infant mortality was very high, literacy rate, especially among women, was very low. Primary school enrollment was low for men, for boys, and for girls it was even lower. And secondary school enrollment was very low. After all these 48 years of our independence, we now see a different picture. Our poverty rate has been reduced to 22%. Our food production has tripled. We now produce enough food to feed ourselves and even have a surplus of 2.6 million metric tons. Our population growth rate has been reduced to 1.1%. This is amazing when you're comparing this rate with other countries, especially Pakistan, since then. Irrigation has taken place. Mechanization of some agricultural practices have started. And also the ready-made garments industry has really taken off from the early 70s to now with an export of $32 billion. So Bangladesh experienced extremely impressive poverty reductions. Even in the year 2000, the poverty was at 49%. Last year, it was 22%. And not just poverty, extreme poverty, which is the level of people way below the poverty line. These are people living on extreme conditions. That used to be 34% in the year 2000. Now it's 9.2%. Life expectancy has increased. Literacy rates have increased. Per capita food production have also increased. Our average economic growth, that's the gross domestic product, and how that has been increased, that has been steadily increased, implying that the economy is growing stronger. The last couple of years, it was around 8% over the last 2 years. In fact, in the year 2018, Bangladesh fulfilled the eligibility criteria to be graduated from the least developed countries. So for the first time, we are on track to be part of the lower level of the middle income countries. We will not be classified as the least developed countries. Now, part of the reason for all this development has to do with one big factor, migration. It's people working in the Middle East, sending money, remittances. Now, that contributes to over 6% of our GDP growth rate. We have people urbanizing, moving to the cities, contributing to production, not just agriculture, it's beyond agriculture, other forms of production. We have an excellent system of safety net programs. So remember, we had mentioned a while back that in 1974, we had suffered a severe famine and tens of thousands of people had died. We will, inshallah, never be faced with any famine conditions ever again, because we have created an extensive system of providing relief, plus how to get out of those conditions, plus how not to even get into those conditions. And in terms of disaster management, we are one of the best in the world. Even the United States doesn't quite know how to cope with major disasters, but we do. And it kicks in the minute natural disasters hit. Also, very importantly, our family planning and contraceptive use has been extremely successful. The average number of children born to women have gone down from 6.9% in the early 70s to 2.1% now. Life expectancy has increased. In 1971, at the time of birth, you could have expected to live 42 years. Now it's gone up to 72 years. The under 5 mortality, that has been reduced to 34 per 1,000 live births. Primary net enrollment has gone up to 89%. Gender parity has also been improving. Women are getting more empowered by microcredit. Women are getting empowered because of the factory work they're doing. Women are getting empowered in terms of societal change. Our next lecture will deal extensively with this issue of women as agents of change and women's empowerment. Now, having said that, there are still some problems remain. While we are food secure, people aren't starving, we're having enough food. Nutrition, eating nutritious food is still a problem. And rates of stunting have gone down, but the undernutrition, as I said, so the nutrition rates are still a problematic. Undernutrition remains serious. So 41% of children under 5 have low nutrition. They have low height for their age, and they have low weight for their height, and then more than a third of them are underweight. As we said, infant mortality has gone down from 150 in the early 70s to 26 now. Maternal mortality rates, women dying at childbirth, it's gone down from 600 in the early 70s to 173 now. Fertility control, as I said, remember, women's contraceptive use and family planning, that has been extremely successful. And so the number of children has declined. And in fact, even the number of births, that has declined. Total fertility rate, how many pregnancies a woman has, that has gone down from 7 in the early 70s to 2.03 in 2019. Even in the mid-80s, we had a serious problem with vaccination. Only 2% of children were vaccinated. And then once the government, this was during the period of the dictator General Ershad, but we did successfully, even during his period, have a successful vaccination program. And within a few years, from 2%, the immunization rate jumped up to 70%. And this was referred to as a near miracle. The vaccination coverage is now more than 90%. This is higher than most inner-city United States. Diarrhea was a major killer of children. And the oral rehydration therapy was incidentally discovered in Bangladesh at the ICTDRB, used to be known as the Cholera Hospital at that time. That knowledge from ICTDRB and then Brac providing door-to-door explanation to women how to make oral rehydration therapy with gur and lobo, salt and molasses. That has really increased the take-up of ORT. And in fact, Bangladesh is now one of the highest usage of ORT in the world. This is part of our local knowledge and understanding, and that has reduced diarrheal deaths significantly. In terms of economic factors, we have moved from a predominantly agriculture economy to a manufacturing and service-based economy. The expansion of the ready-made garment sector has been instrumental in bringing about foreign currency reserves in providing employment here. Also, there's been a movement in employment from daily and self-employment work towards salary jobs. International remittances have increased, and productivity in agriculture has increased. In the early 70s, we had a serious problem in producing enough to feed ourselves. Now, even though the population has increased from 75 million at 71 to 170 million now, even with this tremendous increase in population, we're able to feed everyone and yet have surplus. Demographic factors has also contributed to this. We talked about low fertility, declining rates of population growth. That has been very important. Women working, which means the dependency rates have gone down, higher employment, and also in the social sectors, education, health, nutrition. That has been tremendously important in improving our economic conditions, our social conditions, and of course the safety nets we talked about. Safety nets, this is Kajer Bidimoy Khaddo, Bidhova Bhata, all of these bhatas, these payments. One of the issues that have emerged, one of the big changes is the levels of mortality. Excuse me. Child survival has increased quite a bit. A lot of children used to die. I showed you the figures before. And that has been due the improvement in child survival. Vaccines, adequate nutrition. It's still not good enough, but still people are being able to eat, and some basic medical and maternal care. And of course, as I just said in the last slide, improvements in education, access to clean water, adequate sanitation, food, child protection, and women's empowerment. All of these have contributed to these changes. We'll start with the Millennium Development Goals. So I'll discuss that in a minute. So let's take a break and then come back. Thank you.